For my first video, I'm covering week 4, which was Neoliberalism, Politics and the State. When researching neoliberalism, I was confronted by the ideology of the founding figures of neoliberal thoughts. David Harvey states in his essay, Neoliberalism and as Creative Destruction, that these founding figures proclaimed that individual liberty and freedom were the central values of civilization. This was confronting because it's a blatant lie. It can be argued that neoliberalism is a project to restore class power. Class power to the rich and privileged and take equality and opportunity away from the vulnerable and working class. What was designed as a theory of political economic practices, claiming that what was best for human well-being was the maximisation of entrepreneurial freedoms within an institutional framework, was actually a clever way to give power and absolute freedom to the people at the very top. David Harvey states that these ideals have proven again and again to be a mighty historical force for change, which in Australia, for example, seems to be true, as the recent budget is a perfect example of neoliberalism. We are led to believe that there is an innate naturalness to this order of things, and as Adolph Jr. attests, the goal of this change is acceptance as the unquestioned natural order of things, that private is always better than public, and that the main functions of government are to enhance opportunities for the investor class and suppress wages for everyone else. I'd like to show you this poster, and it was authorised from Christine Milne from the Greens Party, and I've rewrote it, and basically there's 2 categories. As you can see, there's the winners and there's the losers, and to me this is neoliberalism at its best. In the winners category there's only one, and that's big business. But however, in the losers category there's many. We have pensioners, single parents, working families, university students, people with disabilities, carers, anyone who visits a doctor, rural Australia, people on minimum wage, New Start recipients, public housing tenants, victims of natural disasters, public broadcasting, research and development, climate action and environmental programs. For the upper class and big business, neoliberalism is a complete success. From their perspective, as David Harvey states, if conditions among the lower class deteriorated, it was because they failed for personal and cultural reasons to enhance their own human capital through education, the acquisition of a Protestant work ethic, and submission to work discipline and flexibility. So basically, if people do fail under neoliberalism, it's their own fault. This got me thinking, how is this even possible? When neoliberalism has a dreadful track record, why are people constantly persuaded into thinking that this is a successful solution? Well, in Australia, I strongly believe it is a persistent stream of media dominated by upper class interests that swamp citizens with these class-based ideals. I'd like to give you an example of this, and it's from the Daily Telegraph, which is a Murdoch publication, and the cover states, "Slackers and slouch hats. New South Wales disability support pensioners now outnumber Australia's total war wounded by more than 44,000. This myth is propagated that certain people are failing because they are not competitive enough, and that their personal and cultural reasons are leading them to failure. A perfect example of neoliberalism is the current budget. It clearly targets the working class and the vulnerable. One example I would like to highlight from the budget is the changes to university fees and the opportunity for universities to charge students whatever price they see fit. In this article, which is from the Sydney Morning Herald, and the cover is "Class War Looms at Unis." Dr. Michael Spence states that middle-class Australian families risk being priced out of university education because of the federal government's reforms. He says, "I want the best students, not only those who can afford to pay." I totally agree with Dr. Spence. It is disgustingly unfair. And what chance does a child from a working class background ever have of having a university education with these kind of reforms? However, this supports the argument that neoliberalism is a project to restore class power, as it is the perfect vehicle for a neoliberalist government to keep the wealthy at the top and the working class and vulnerable at the very bottom. Thank you for listening.